Hi, and welcome to the Selaks Wine-Pod, where we ask the experts the stories behind the wine we drink. Selaks has marked a significant milestone, celebrating its 90th birthday of making wine here in New Zealand. It's a remarkable story of a young Croatian immigrant who arrived in New Zealand with a dream of bringing family and friends together. From humble beginnings in West Auckland, Selaks have grown into a modern wine brand, much loved by Kiwis and also around the world. To join me to talk about that is Managing Director Stephen Cheadle. Thanks for joining me, Stephen. It's a truly family story, such a milestone.
It's an incredible milestone. 90 years for New World Wine. Brands just don't exist that long these days. So for the Selaks to have immigrated from Europe 90 years ago, had the first vintage in 1934, is just an incredible milestone for any New Zealand-based wine story.
It really is. Take me back to the day a young Croatian immigrant arrived in New Zealand and said, "What am I going to do here?"
Yeah, so Marino landed in New Zealand and he procured a small piece of land over near Cumeu, originally 12 hectares, desperate to set up the family dream. And really, that was about providing food for family, wine for family, and having enjoyment around that table, which is very traditional to do in Europe. Started off market gardens on this 12 hectares and put in 300 grapevines just to supply wine for his family. His friends enjoyed his wine, so they started talking about it, and their friends of friends decided they might like some also. And so, serving the European local immigrant community with that wine was the start of the business. But I guess shortly into planting out those vineyards, he realised he couldn't cope with it himself, and he actually sent a telegram begging for one of his nephews to come and help him. And he jumped on a boat. This is Mate, and he was on a one-way ticket at 16 years old.
Oh, that is young.
Landed in Auckland, and the telegram hadn't quite made it in time, confirming that he was going to land in Auckland. So he landed in Auckland and was stranded at the bottom of Quay Street for a few hours, waiting to see if he could find anyone that spoke Croatian that could locate his family member and get him in touch with where he was supposed to go.
And eventually he got to the right place, and then the story keeps going.
He did. Apparently, the neighbour's friend. I mean, out in Cumeu at the time, they were in the back blocks. They only got mail once every 2 weeks, and so he managed to get over in 2 weeks, which was quicker than the telegram. And eventually, a neighbouring son jumped on a bike, went and told his uncle that he was here, and he got collected from the docks and got put to doing some hard work on the market gardens and in the vineyards.
Such a cool story. And also, you imagine arriving in New Zealand and not knowing anybody. It's a crazy story. They probably didn't realize it at the time, but they were such entrepreneurs. What kind of vision do you think they had?
Yeah, I think the vision really sort of cascaded just from the fact that they were used to living with that family-friendly environment in Croatia, and wine had always been part of that. As wine grew with their friends and family, they wondered if they could commercialize it, and they realized in New Zealand they couldn't straight away because the palate was different. People weren't drinking dry wines.
They were drinking sherry,
Yes, sherry and port.
sherry and
So
port.
you can make sherry and port pretty easily if you know how to make wine. And so the Selaks families launched the sherry import, and it was a difficult launch because the laws in New Zealand said at the time you were only allowed to sell liquor in 9 litre. Um,
9 liters. Holy
so yeah, rocking up to buy 9 litres of sherry or port is probably a tough ask for anyone, but that's where it all started.
crazy. What does the Celax brand mean to you 90 years on? Tell me about its legacy.
Selaks for me it's a trusted brand. It has history, it has heritage, but it's a brand that has moved with the times. You don't survive for 90 years if you get stuck in a rut. And so over the 90 years that Selaks have been live and kicking in New Zealand, the younger members of the family were quite entrepreneurial in the way they produced wine. So they bought in new kit and equipment from around the world that sort of moved you out from stomping grapes in barrels to pressing things properly and making really good quality, consistent wine across the portfolio. And if you look at the Selaks today, we've basically moved with the consumer groups. We make low alt wine now, zeros, fives, sevens, 8%, and obviously the full strength traditional offerings. And we talk to people of all generations about wine, and it's a really trusted brand that people go back and buy time and time again. It's a reason that we're consistently number one or number two value driver in the New Zealand market.
That's fantastic. 90 years to celebrate, you made a special vintage wine.
We did. We have a top tier of the Selaks brand, which is called Founders. We've always had trophy Chardonnays and Reds that we release when the vintage is absolutely superb. And so the winemakers go and have a play. They pick the best quality grapes from the year from the varietals that we have available. And for the 90th, we put together a particularly special set where we only made 200 to 300 cases of each of the different varietals. And we've got our eye around the corner because 90 is a milestone, but 100 is only 10 years away and it's short in the wine game.
Yes.
So those founders limited editions, we will be looking to make for the next 10 years to enable our 100-year celebration as well.
Here's to 100 years. Thank you so much for joining me on the Selaks podcast, Stephen Cheadle, Managing Director of Selaks. That was our episode 1 of the Selaks podcast. We'll see you for the next one.